What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/PettyRevenge. This story's called, "My truck smokes and makes a licking noise, and it's driving me insane." Oh my god. So, your truck's like a perverted old man in like an 80s or 90s movie or something. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Edit. Clicking noise, not licking noise. I promise, no licking was involved in the events described here. I don't know, you seem kind of desperate to convince us. That's sus. I once worked at an auto parts delivery store, and a new guy was hired who was sort of a jerk. He was always playing really mean pranks. Once, he'd fixed a broomstick to the stairs to the basement so I'd trip, and I did. He put dirty grease on my seat in my delivery truck that made my pants nasty for the rest of the day. Everyone complained about him, but I was the only one close to his age, so I guess he felt more comfortable doing the mean pranks to me. One of my older coworkers gave me a couple things to do to get him back. First, I started putting automatic transmission fluid in the carburetor of his delivery truck. Yes, this is back when those were still common. The effect this has is massive amounts of billowing white smoke pouring out of the exhaust pipe until it all burns up. The other employees and manager also learned I was doing this, and they enjoyed the revenge. After a week of this and his daily complaints of a truck that's falling apart, I was given my next prank. Large, heavy-duty cable ties around the drive shaft. Put them in a spot where they'll contact the undercarriage. So for the next week or so after this, that guy keeps complaining about the smoke and the licking noise, sorry, no takesies backsies, caused by the cable ties. I stopped putting the ATF in his carburetor, and after a couple of weeks, the cable ties wore down and broke off, but he was fired shortly after. He was getting complaints from customers because he was terrible at his job as well as being a jerk when he was at the store. I like this story too. Seems like a jerk. Pranks are great, I love pranks, but not when you're being a jerk. Alright, this story's called, "Touch My Station? I'll make sure you never get caffeine again." Hello, Reddit. First time poster to this sub, long time lurker. I'm on mobile typing this, and I've had a few beers, so feel free to roast me in the comments for grammar and such. So I work at a coffee shop 6 mornings a week. My shop is open 7 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., and I leave by 1 p.m. Its location is within another business, and it only takes one person to run it, so that's usually me until I want a day off, then the parent shop will let someone work for me. Anyways, characters. Me is yours truly. Nice employee is nice employee. Arrogant employee is arrogant employee. On to the story. So I have a few regulars who are employees from the business that surrounds me. One morning, nice employee from surrounding business is getting his usual drink and chatting with me as I make it. As we chat, arrogance employee comes up to the counter. Arrogance employee and nice employee start talking when, as a joke, arrogant employee picks up some jars from my tea display as well as the scoops and pretends he's going to throw the tea at nice employee. I look over and tell arrogant employee to put it down and chastise him, saying that now I have to toss the tea and re-sanitize the entire station. He throws back the BS argument that he's had 2 Brovid tests and I haven't, so he's good and how does he know I'm not? I tell him that's not the point, but he dismissed me and walked away. Nice employee gets his drink, apologizes for arrogant employee, and goes back to work. After speaking with my manager, I have the power to ban arrogant employee from the shop if I please, but I decided to take a different route. Now, usually arrogant employee will come to my counter and get a large black strong coffee. After the tea incident, every time he comes for coffee, when I feel he's the most tired, I'll give him decaf instead. This is my own secret petty revenge. No caffeine for you. Don't piss off the one who pours your coffee. Okay, this one I don't 100% agree with because he's paying money. Okay, I know, I'm a stupid person probably, but I don't like this one that much because it just feels dirty. This story's called Don't Take My Cologne. Back in college, one of my roommates was sort of known to borrow things, and they somehow never made it back to the owner. Me and my roommate are, and still are, good friends. But one day, he pushed me too far. I would always let him use my cologne before we would go out because who cares? It's just cologne. But I had one specific cologne that was my favorite, and apparently his and his girlfriend's favorite. So one day I come home and realize my favorite cologne is gone, and I knew there was one culprit. I called him to ask if he took it, and he was honest with me and said yes. He brought it with him while he went to visit his girlfriend's parents about 3 hours away and promised I would have my cologne back. Well, I had experienced this promise enough to know that if I didn't do anything, he would have forgotten the cologne and I would never see or smell it again. So what did I do to make sure? Before I got off the phone with him, I said, okay, but just to make sure I get it back, I'm taking some of your valuables out of your room and holding them hostage. To which he was not happy, but I was shaking with excitement. I then proceeded to take just about everything out of his room. I took his laptop, TV, pillows, hat, shoes, Beats headphones, etc., and took a picture of everything locked in the trunk of my car, so he really got the message that I was serious. Surprisingly, when he got back, he tried to play the "dude, I forgot it, but I promise I'll give it back" routine. Not a chance, buddy. That stuff is staying locked in my car until that cologne is back on my shelf. He claimed he left it at the parents' house 3 hours away, but somehow within 15 minutes, I had my cologne back. I knew that would be his trick, but you can't fool me that easily. And even if it was there, well, I guess he has to hop in the car for 6 hours unless he wants to sleep without pillows, or can't do any homework since I had his laptop. Not my problem. And just to be even more petty, all I did was unlock my car and he had to put all his stuff back, just so I know he got the message loud and clear. Okay, this is probably my favorite petty revenge story of all time. Hands down. Okay, not hands down, but like, it's definitely up there. Probably. I mean, definitely. Probably my favorite. Definitely up there. I like it. This story's called Have the Students Build It. I am a technology education teacher who always went above and beyond for my school, students, and administrators. I spent countless hours designing and building things for the school, i.e. signs, murals, wall art, games, etc. I really didn't mind because I enjoy the design challenges that go along with these builds. That was until I received a pink slip. For those of you who are not aware, a pink slip basically means that I may be losing my job the following school year. This really pissed me off because I received great observations, became a role model for my students, and put in dozens of unpaid hours to create these side projects for the school. I had a meeting with my assistant superintendent who basically told me that she appreciated all of my hard work, but didn't see much value in my program. And with budget cuts coming down the pike, I would most likely be losing my job. Now, it needs to be mentioned that tech ed is not like the traditional shop classes of the 70s, where students would build birdhouses and ashtrays. My curriculum focused primarily on STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, with heavily involved hands-on applications. I related otherwise dry material to awesome projects that all the students enjoyed. Kids actually liked their schoolwork, and she knew it. It's also worth noting that both the valedictorian and salutatorian were going to Ivy League colleges to pursue STEM degrees. Needless to say, I was beyond livid. The week following the meeting, my principal asked me if I was interested in building some new games for the cafeteria that students could play when they finished eating. Easy table games like mini knock hockey, checkerboards, etc., to alleviate students from getting out of control. I explained that I could not complete the project, and that was that. Until the assistant superintendent caught me in the hallway and told me, "Just have the students build it." So that is exactly what I did. I tasked my laziest and most unqualified students for a special project, the result of which was glorious. Checkerboards that didn't have squares, knock hockey goals with splinters and uneven goals, laser engraved puzzles that did not fit together. I thanked the students and asked the assistant superintendent to come on down to my lab because the student projects were done and they were excited to show them off. In she walks, and upon seeing the projects, looks me dead in the eye. She now has a decision to make. 1. Ask me what the hell happened, or 2. Tell the students to their face what a great job they did. She opted for choice 2, going on and on about how great everything looks and how proud she was of the students, while I had the biggest smile on my face, knowing how crappy they turned out. I thanked her for suggesting to have the students build it, as she left with essentially a pile of scrap wood. The projects never made it to the cafeteria. I resigned from that school and took a job that paid $12,000 more at a place where I was valued. They end up keeping the position and begged me to stay on board. I realized resigning was my best option because I could get an early jump on all of the new openings as opposed to being let go at the end of summer, which would leave me with the worst schools that could not find a teacher. First of all, thank you for your contributions to your school. That's a lot of stuff. And that's what sucks, because with a lot of businesses, because a school is a business if you think about it, the hardest working employees a lot of times are the ones that get overlooked because, I mean, if they genuinely care, a lot of the time they're not gonna be like, oh, all show-offy about what they do and, you know, point out the fact that they're essentially doing like a lot of stuff for free and stuff beyond the scope of their job. And it sucks that by default, it seems almost, goes unappreciated. Alright, this story's called, I Just Want You to Want to Be Here. I've told this story in real life a few times in different contexts, and enough time has passed that I feel comfortable posting it online. I've worked in live theater for my entire professional career. For the most part, I've specialized in video, which is a pretty niche thing. Not a lot of people that are drawn to live theatrical performance are at all interested in video. I was working at a large regional theater company as a video engineer. Said company got lucky enough to be the place where a show destined for Broadway would originate. This show has received a decent amount of fame. Not like Hamilton, but you'd probably have heard the name if I said it here. The show had a lot of video. Like a lot. Specifically, it had around 30 flat screen TVs that were part of the set. They'd fly up and down, move across the stage, and display all sorts of content. We brought in a Broadway designer and his team of assistants to produce all the content. I worked most closely with the video engineer attached to the project, an NYC-based guy. We'll call him Chad. It was a big show for my team. The scope was completely out of our usual wheelhouse, but we had a lot of talent on our side. All of us put in some insane hours. Me and another person had a couple of over 100-hour weeks during the build and load-in. I, in particular, didn't get a day off for around a month. I think 29 days. It was a big show and we were all exhausted. Once we were in technical rehearsals, the large part of my job was over. Most of the time I was expected to be on site in case anything went wrong. In general, I'm totally fine with this. It's part of the job. We got to a Wednesday night, right at the end of that 29-day period. I realized I literally didn't have a clean pair of underwear to wear the next day. I talked to my boss at the theater company, local, and his boss, also local, and they gave me the okay to go home to do my laundry. I'd be back the next day at 8 a.m. I went to let Chad know what the plan was. I explained that I needed to do laundry and that I hadn't had a day off in a month. He sighed, exhibiting extreme annoyance and disappointment, and said, I just want you to want to be here. Well, screw you too, Chad. Seriously, he knew how hard I had been working. He knew how much I had been there. He knew there wasn't anything for me to do that evening. He knew that if there was a technical problem, he was more qualified than I to address it. He knew all of those things and didn't care. That was the moment any ambition I had to work on Broadway died. I had put my heart and soul into that show and had a relationship fall apart as a result. And he wanted me to want to be there? Side note, theater people can be really toxic about this kind of thing. If you aren't there, every waking hour, people will turn their noses up at you. It's the one thing I hate about theater, that there's this cultish sense of a required level of devotion, that if someone treats it as a job and not a calling, they don't deserve to be there, which is bullcrap on many levels. That said, if anyone is in the condition I was in, the hours and the lack of days off, usually they'll be escorted out of the building by their coworkers and have their keys taken away until they get some rest. Theater people can be cultish, but they do care about around one another. Chad's actions were on a whole different level. There was no immediate reprisal. We got through the technical rehearsals and the show opened. Then it closed and moved on to NYC for an off-Broadway run before it got to Broadway and received much critical acclaim. The revenge story comes with the move to off-Broadway. See, I was the person responsible for boxing up all those TVs to send to New York City. This particular model of TV has a big rocker switch on the back, a master power switch. Knowing Chad, I knew that wouldn't be something that he'd check. So I went ahead and flipped them all off, packed up the TVs, and sent them on their way. A friend of mine worked on the production in New York. Apparently, Chad got his crew to hang all the TVs and fly them up into position without checking anything. Apparently, Chad then spent a couple days trying to turn them on with remotes with no network control, even getting on an electric lift and hitting the power button separate from the rocker. Nothing worked. Apparently, when he found out the problem, he was rather frustrated. Apparently, he had been putting in some long days and hadn't had a day off in a while. Well, Chad, I just want you to want to be there. I really like that. Okay, that's some good petty revenge. The definition of it, if I dare say, or I guess like just a freaking dictionary example in a dictionary that has examples, such as the Children's Dictionary by Scholastic, which I'm a fan of. I actually sought that thing out when I was a kid because like I love the pictures. Oh my god, it's so cool. Plus like all the colors and just, it's such a pretty book. Very pleasing to look at.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.